Hey everybody, it's your girl Bunny. It's the CBS All Access original series, Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 6, entitled The Impossible Box. To all of my returning subscribers, hey, how you doing? And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Kick your feet up as I do a recap of the entire episode with photos offset to the sides. I leave my review of the episode and predictions for the rest of the season in the comments. That's all coming up next. It's Bunny. Opening scene, we see a young girl walking down the hallway as if she's been awakened from her sleep. And we see that she has the same pendant that was identified earlier in the season. So we know that this is one of the twins that has been awakened. And she's heading down the hallway to a room where she's hearing noise. And as she opens the door, she sees a man working on something or doing something, but we can't see his face. We don't know who he is. We can't tell by anything who this person is. And as she gets closer and closer to the gentleman and trying to get around some orchids to see who it is, she hears her name, Soji, and she's awakened. And we see that it's Soji and Narek. They're in the bed and she has awakened from a bad dream, and he's asking her, what happened in your dream? It seems that you've had a nightmare. And we can tell that Soji is kind of over Narek asking questions all the time. He's always asking her questions. And then she starts to question him. You know, for the longest time, we've been talking and meeting up, and I don't even know your real name. I know in Romulan culture, you have a name that you present to everybody else, but what is the name that you would share with your significant other? What is the name that your friends would call you by? And he's telling her that, of course, yes, that's the name that I'm telling you, but what's going on in your dream? You're dreaming these things. Where is this dream coming from? And she's so over it. She's giving this energy as if she's kind of accustomed to what he's doing. And now she's starting to get a little bit more curious in why he's asking her all of these questions. And she goes, when you're ready to tell me that name, let me know what it is. But you can tell that she's deep in thought from the question that he asked her of where is this dream coming from? What are the origins of that? And that sparks her interest because she doesn't know. Agnes is sitting with Picard, really giving all of the quote unquote explanations of why Bruce is deceased and telling him, you know, he went through so much trauma while on Free Cloud. He had so many wounds with his head and his chest, and we gave him medication, but it was just too much for his heart. And Picard, it's just like, wow, you know, I really know this is hard for you. It's just something that's very difficult to even think about. And he's just really sympathetic to her and empathetic on what she's going through. But she's giving him a very thorough report about what's happened to him. And as she says that, she kind of has this, let me get over that. It's just a part of life, and just grazes over that and says, okay, so he did mention that there were two twins and that one of them is located on the Borg cube. You know, why do you think he put, you know, the other twin there? And he's just like, I don't know. We got to figure that out. There's got to be some explanation for it. And Elnor seems very intrigued and saying, you know, Borg cube? You know, what's that? And Agnes has this annoyance of, oh, you know, we don't want this guy getting interested in asking too many questions. But Picard says, you know, yes, it's a Borg cube, but, you know, it's an artifact now. But Elnor sees his body language change and the energy, and he says, I see that you're not anticipating going back. Picard says, no, the last time that I visited a Borg cube, it was involuntary. And you could start to see the trauma and him start to sink into his chair and feeling terror and fear. And right when he's about to go into why he may be feeling a certain type of way, Agnes is very quick to interject and talk about Picard's experience. And she says they injected you with nanoprobes and they graft you with synthetic parts, and they wanted to assimilate your mind with theirs. But you know, that was a while ago. Maybe they've changed. And Picard says no, they have not changed. They assimilate civilizations, systems within a matter of hours. So no, they have not changed. And you can hear the firmness and the anger that's coming from him. And she starts to understand that it's easier for her to say such a thing, but she's not considering his trauma that he's still suffering from, because his body language is changing. He can barely focus. He seems dizzy at times when he's talking. And Elnor recognizes this behavior. He recognizes that Picard is having negative effects of that. And Picard needs to leave the room and to gather himself. And Elnor says to Agnes something that's really interesting. And he says that it's something that you're trying to hide, something that's also traumatic that you don't want anyone else to see. And she acknowledges that that's true, but she doesn't say what that is. Picard goes to his chambers to try to gather himself. He's breathing deeply because he looks like he's on the verge of having a panic attack. And after he gets his breathing back to a normal pattern, he says to the computer, and he focuses, "Computer, show me research on these words: artifact, treaty, Borg." And as the computer gathers information, he sits down at his desk and he continues to breathe. And after he's done that, the computer has pulled up all of these different images. We see Borg, we see Picard in that state of when they were trying to assimilate him. And we also see the image of the gentleman that was talking to Soji on the artifact Borg cube. And he notices himself in that assimilated format. And he's starting to remember and feel that trauma all over again. After the opening credits, we see Rios. He's having a nice workout, and Agnes enters the room. And she says, "How can you be out here in space? It's lonely, it's empty." And he notices that she seems somewhere else. Her mind is somewhere else. And she can't understand why he loves to be in space. And she lets him know that she's feeling lonely. She's feeling empty. And she has no hesitation in showing some type of interest or having an interest in Rios. She just pounces on him and gives him a kiss, and Rios is taken back by that. But he says, you know, if it's anything that you need to talk about, you can come to me. We can talk about these things. But what you're trying to do, it's not going to help your situation. You got to talk about it. And she just says, hey, it might not handle the situation, but it'll make me feel better for a few hours. And she grabs his hand, and they could proceed to go into another room to do what they want to do. Rizzo visits Narek and says, okay, so what's going on with the progression of what you need to do? Do you have any more information for me? I hope you're not stalling. We need to hurry this up. And he explains to her that I am getting information. I just have to make sure that I play the cards right. She's having a dream, and it's not just a dream, it's a reoccurring dream. And it's something that she's having more frequently. I can't rush what I'm doing just to try to hurry up for her to tell me things. I have to take my time and figure out, why is she having this dream? Don't you find it interesting that if she is what we think she is, that she's having something like that? That's not a glitch. Whoever made her wanted her to have these thoughts, wanted her to remember these moments that were created and placed. And we see that he has this cube that's puzzle-esque, and he's telling Rizzo that just like this puzzle, I have to figure out all of the pieces, all of the movements, and how they all tie in together. So I'm not lagging, I'm not taking my time. I'm trying to figure out how to crack this code with Soji so we can get the information that we need. Rios tells Picard, okay, we are getting out of the neutral territory and we're starting to go towards Romulan area. And this is very dangerous. So we got to think of something, because we can't be comfortable without being into this neutral zone. And Picard's like, I thought about it. It's something that I've given thought to. I understand that. We've got to think of something. And Agnes says, well, we can tell them that, we have medical research that we're trying to do, and maybe with my accolades that will help us get in. And he's like, no. That's not enough. That won't get us through. How about we just be open, Romulan respect, if you're just open and honest about the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. So maybe we can do that. And also, I thought about getting permission from the Federation, since they have research among the cube, and it's something that the Federation sees as a neutral research project. If we can get permission to get there as a envoy, then that is something that where we can be safe and we can actually go. So we need that, but we need somebody to get it for us. And this is where Rafi comes in, and she is drunk. She's had her own experiences even from the last episode, and she is just a mess. And they're telling her, hey, we need you to sweet talk the Federation. We need this permission to go on this artifact. You need to just kind of sweet talk us in, say what you need to say, because Picard, more than anybody, needs to get on this artifact. So work your magic. Rafi calls who she needs to call on the Federation. She's trying to pull herself together, but she's not necessarily trying to hide that she's drunk. She calls her contact with the Federation, and they want to know, okay, what do you want? Because you're not calling me just to have conversation. And she says, look, Picard, he's on one of these missions where he's trying to find out some information. He's an admiral. He's trustworthy. Let's just give him this access. And, I just kind of look over the fact that, you're dealing with me and anything of the past. Picard needs this. We just need you to give us this access. Even though they've had enough of Rafi and they are just tired of hearing from her and maybe all of the mess and things that she's been in the past, they go ahead and give Picard this 24-hour permission and leeway to go onto this artifact, to go see and research this project. And of course, the crew is just excited that he has the permission, and this can get us closer to what we're trying to do, except for Agnes. Agnes looks a little disappointed. Soji tells Narek, I keep having these dreams, and I don't know why I keep having these dreams. And I try to talk to my mom, but when I talk to my mom, I get sleepy and I fall asleep. I don't know what's going on, and I'm trying to figure it all out. And Narek says, it's really interesting that you're telling me this, and also when you call your mother that you'll fall straight to sleep. But what's interesting is when I looked into it, when you talk to your mother, you're only speaking with her for 70 seconds. 70 seconds each call. So it's not like you're going into a lot of information and really having an in-depth conversation with your mom, because you fall asleep every call 70 seconds. Don't you find that interesting? And she, once again, is curious of why he's snooping around and why he's trying to get all of this information. But it's something that she needs, and it's kind of going over her head because she's curious about what's going on with her. And he says it's in the logs that this is true and that this is what's happening. Each time you call your mother, you think that you're talking to her, but after 70 seconds, you fall asleep. Rafi is drunk, and she's telling Rios that I have a son, and I've never been involved in his life, and he's married, and I found out that they're having a child, and it's just all this is going on, and I won't even be involved with that. He's trying to calm her and put her to sleep so she can just sleep it off. And he looks at her and says, we all didn't get it right. Rios is letting Picard know the final permissions, yay, nay, if they can get onto this cube. It's kind of like a pro and a con. They have permission, but the only drawback is that it has to be Picard only. And when Picard goes, he's thinking about it, and he's still having these traumatic physical aspects that he's experiencing. He's feeling dizzy. He can barely stand up. He's closing his eyes. He's having these flashbacks of all of his past Borg assimilation experiences. And he tells Elnor, I have this permission. I know that I would rather have everybody with me, but you must, no matter what happens, you must stay on this ship. We've come too far. Don't come off and go where I am. I need to get this information. And Elnor agrees that he won't leave the ship, that he will allow Picard to go. Picard says to everybody, I know that you're concerned, but this has to be done. We can't turn back now. Soji is so confused and thrown off by everything that's occurring. The dreams, this guy that keeps asking all of these questions, things that don't make sense when she calls her mother. And she starts to gather different things in her room, photos, notebooks, diaries, and she's scanning it with the device so it can give her an estimation of her lifespan. And as she's scanning photos of her and her sister, her mother, maybe some pictures of her family, it's giving an estimate of 37 months. And she can't believe it. And she's pulling more things and she scans diary and notebook information. And after everything she's scanning, it's giving her an estimate of 37 months. 37 months. She scans again, 37 months. And she says, this is impossible. And she's throwing a fit and she's in tears because how can it be that I've only existed for 37 months when I have a family, when I have a mother, when I have a sister? And she's very confused. Picard is on the cube now and he can barely walk. Everything that he's seeing on this cube is giving him reflections and enticing memories of the Borg experience. And he's dropping to his knees and he can barely stand up. And everything that he's seeing is just giving him complete fear. And then he starts to see Borg individuals around him, grabbing him, holding him. And he says, let me go, let me go. And you could just hear voices saying, they have to hold you so you don't fall over. And when he comes to, he sees a very recognizable face, someone that's experienced something similar to him. And he is greeted with a smile. And he finally feels that he's safe because he recognizes this face. And he knows that this is the director that he needed to speak to. And he tells him, wow, it's really, really good to see your face. And he's telling him that, yes, you're here. I don't understand why you're here, but welcome. There has to be a reason why you're here. It has to be a legitimate explanation. And he says, well, why are you here? Out of all places, why are you living here? And he's walking Picard through these areas and saying that this is an artifact. It is not the cube that happened years ago. Try to get that out of your mind, is that that's what's going on with where we are now. This is a place in trying to help people that have gone through the same experiences that we have to become better, to go on with their lives. And it's all coming together in Picard's mind. And he says, wow, all this time I thought there were monsters, but actually they're victims. And he's telling Picard, yes, they're victims. And we're doing any and everything that we can with this project. And Picard is amazed and saying that you are doing wonderful work here. And I'm glad that it's working. But there's somebody that I need to find, Soji. And before he can continue, the director says, Soji, yes, I know her. She's here. And everything has to correlate together. Her, this Romulan that follows her all around and asking her all of these questions. And then you coming out of nowhere, and she seems very sweet and kind. So this has to have something that's going together. There has to be some explanation behind it. And whatever you need, just tell me and I want to help you. And Picard says, I've got to go to her now. Can we find her? We've got to find her immediately. Soji is telling Narek that I scanned things that have to do with me, memories, photos, notebooks, diaries, and it's telling me that my existence is over a span of 37 months. Something isn't right. And Narek gives the grin of, yes, maybe this is my opportunity to get into her mind, to see what's going on. And he lets her know that through custom, through Romulan culture, I can help you figure out what this dream is. You have to close your eyes and you have to focus, and I can walk you through those steps to get through this dream, this imagery that you keep saying. But you have to take my hand and you have to let me help you get through this process. Out of desperation, confusion, and anger, Soji agrees to join him to try to figure out what this dream means. Rafi is kind of slept off a little bit of her drunken state. And as she awakens, she's drinking coffee, and Rio says, I owe you, some explanation. And, with our bet, I can't believe that, the other twin is still alive. And she goes, well, what do you mean? And he says, well, Picard, he's on the cube. He's trying to find her. She's still alive. And Rafi says, no, that really doesn't make any sense. If you think about it, the Tashyar, they made sure to go out of their way to make sure Bruce was taken care of, to make sure Daj was killed. Why are they keeping this one still alive? And the only thing that makes sense is that they need something from her. What exactly is it that they need? And something isn't right. And the wheels are churning. And Rafi, you can tell that she wants to figure this out. Narek takes Soji to Zalmach so she can go into the further state and focus to try to figure out what these dreams and images are. And you can tell that in their Romulan area, they're looking at Soji like, who is this and why are you bringing her in this area? But Narek lets the security know, everybody that's looking her up and down, like, she's with me. This is something that I need to do and we need to get in here. So security lets them in. And Narek tells Soji that you need to focus. You need to take off your shoes and follow this path. Close your eyes and focus, and I'll walk you through all of the steps. Think and focus. And Soji closes her eyes and she starts to begin what she sees in the dream. She's walking down the hallway. She's going to the door that's at the end of the hallway. When she opens the door, she sees this man, but in her dream, he never turns around. And because of those orchids, she can never really fully see what's going on. And he says, yes. So this is usually the part of the dream where you're awakened, you hear someone calling your voice and you snap out of it. But we're going to push through that. When you hear somebody call your name, don't open your eyes, stay focused and keep going. He's egging her on. Come on, what more do you see? She says, well, I see a man. And now he's turning around, but I can't see his face. I still can't see his face. It's not clear to me. She hears her name, and when she hears her name, she turns around and pushes through the imagery that she usually doesn't see. And it seems to be a doll of some sort that looks like her, something that is her, and it's being put together. And of course, this is throwing her off and like, wow, what is going on? What is happening? And he says, yes, you see something that it's a doll that looks just like you. Keep looking around. What else do you see? And as he's walking her through this dream, we see Rizzo somewhere listening and watching this entire process that's happening in the room. She hears Narek, she hears Soji explaining this dream, this image, and she's looking for certain things in the system that may correlate with her dream. And he says, look around. Look up. What do you see? And when she looks up, she sees a skylight, a window per se, that can let her see into outer space, into this dream. And she looks up and she sees 2 red moons, or a planet that has 2 red moons. And she says, I see this. And he says, great. That's good. You've told me everything that I need to know. She says, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? I saw all of that. Let me know what I'm seeing. What's happening? And he hugs her in a deceptive way, and he presses her lips on her ears and says, you don't exist. You're not real. And in tears, she's confused, and he walks out of the room only to leave her locked behind the wall. And she's banging on the door to let her out and explain what is happening to her. What is all of this imagery and all of these events? What do they mean? And he hears Rios in his earpiece saying, good job. We have what we need. Great. And as he's on the other side of the wall, we see that he has some tears, and that maybe he really did care for her, but the mission is complete. The job is done. He's left the cube that he had earlier in the episode that seemed to be this puzzle per se. And when he leaves that in a room, it releases this red gas. And Soji is starting to inhale it, and she can barely contain herself. And she's starting to say, help, let me out. What are you doing? But it's too late. At this point, he's telling the guy at the door, don't open it. We can't open it now. It's too much radiation. So then we see Soji start to punch into the floor, and she's banging her way through the floor, and she begins to open up the floor and go through it in order to escape this room. Picard and the director, they're doing everything that they can to pinpoint where Soji is on the cube, but they can note that wherever she is, someone is cloaking her location, and they can't find her, and they're looking any and everywhere that they can. They're still trying to search. While they're doing that, they see Soji come from one of the ceilings, and she's punched her way through. She's bloody on her forehead and on her hands. And Picard says, Soji, trust me, come with me. You're in danger. You must come with me. Trust me. And without really hesitation, she kind of studies him, but she can kind of tell that he's not trying to be deceptive. He's really caring. He says, please, we have to go now. Take my hand. We must leave now. They're going to different areas of the ship trying to escape. And the director takes him to this specific room. And Picard recognizes the room but doesn't understand why. And he says, yes, this room was designed for a queen, that if there was an emergency, she would have somewhere to escape. And there is this teleport system that's going to allow them to escape, that's going to allow them to leave. And Rizzo, she has the ability to say to the computer, research a planet that has 2 red moons. So they're already in the process to figure out where this might have happened, this event of this dream that Soji has had. And as they're doing that, they can hear the Romulan that are coming, and Picard says to the ship, we may have to cut out of here, but unfortunately we can't come on the ship with you. You will have to meet us on a particular planet together. But we all can't go. We all can't go at the same time through this teleport. So I'm just letting you know that we're going to go. It's got to be myself and Soji, and we'll meet you on this planet. And the director says, be safe. Don't worry about me. But yet we still hear Romulan security coming closer and closer to the room where they are. And they don't know how they're going to fight them off. They don't know what they're going to do. And of course, Elnor, against the orders of Picard, he shows up and he's able to fight off some of the Romulan. And Picard says, you didn't listen to me and you didn't stay on the ship. Thank you for not listening. And he inquires about Elnor and says that we have to go, and you can't go with us. So what if something happens to you? And Elnor lets him know, this is the pledge that I took. This is the dedication that I said. I'm here to protect you. So you go. Picard and Soji grab hands and they teleport to the next location. And we can only hope that the rest of the crew will meet them there. And that is the end of the episode. Join me next week for episode 7. What did you think about this episode? Make sure to check out my predictions for the rest of the season, as well as my review for this episode. Make sure to subscribe. And I don't know if you noticed, but I subscribe to whomever subscribes to me. Also follow me on Instagram, the same profile name, officialbunne_e. Check out the playlist to see what other movies and television shows that I have recapped and reviewed. Go on there, pick some shows, and just binge watch and have fun. Have a good one, you guys. See you next week. Bye.